But I want to hear about how your performance went, how your ritual
Yeah,
release went.
it's a shame. I've been wanting to touch base with you about it because I felt like you reached out to me and I kind of so much had happened between the time that the actual performance date and then
Hmm.
to now that I lost track. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I was so surprised that that I was able to kind of release in the way that I did.
Hmm.
There was I had had some health issues over the summer that were pretty major, and I actually just thought of this whole project as as an experiment, honestly, to see
Hmm.
what I could do based on where I was,
Mm.
you know. So yeah, it was a wonderful release. It absolutely was a wonderful release. It was I had a nice good cry right in the middle of it.
Mm.
It was perfect. Like in that way, I needed to have that cry. And one thing that was really interesting was that I wasn't expecting was the sort of pause or fear around having a few people watch me. And
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. Like I felt like, I was surprised because we were accustomed to that type of thing. And
Hmm.
I thought I'd be like, oh, this is going to feel so lovely, like to have, support, like a very few folks supporting. And I was really taken back. I was like, wow, I'm actually feeling pretty nervous
Yeah.
and a little guarded as well. And
Yeah.
it was really interesting because it brought me first, initially to that place, and then at the end of the piece, it was so much more meaningful. I found
Yeah.
like there was this beautiful embrace that we all had at the end of the piece that
Yeah.
like helped me just sort of recognize the value of community and support. So I felt like it was such a beautiful, pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Did you kind of anticipate the feelings you might encounter by doing this?
Um,
Did you anticipate that you might go into full on crying, or, what, yeah, did you anticipate any of those feelings?
I didn't. I actually felt what I guess what I anticipated was the feeling of the beautiful feeling that comes when you just dance and are able to express your innermost joys and challenges and all of that. I was like, okay, I need this. I'm going to call on it and I can't wait for it. I cannot wait. What I didn't anticipate was the volume or the strength of that.
Mm.
Like it was so full and unapologetic. I will absolutely say that. It was very
Yeah.
much unapologetic. Um, and just like it felt similar to how I have felt in the past about any of my experience as an actress on stage, like
Mm.
having this um, full release, intentional release based on a character or a story. It really had such a nice sort of performance art factor in it, and it really, I felt like it genuinely told the story of how I had been feeling over the course of however many months this has been going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that it was all those things for you, and that it was more than in the end than what were expecting, more powerful, more everything. Because that's to me, that just kind of demonstrates like how much needed to come out and
mm,
needed to be said with, our bodies. Um, so that's nice.
definitely, and definitely healing, right? Like
Hmm.
I think that there's so many degrees of healing that we experience as movers and dancers, and even not yet movers and dancers. I think when you start to touch that surface of like, oh, maybe I'll experiment, move this way or dance this way. There's an immediate like response to I'm opening, I am
Yeah.
releasing, I am experiencing and feeling.
Yeah.
Not to
Yeah.
sound too, nutty, but
Not at all.
yeah, but I feel like that aspect of it was much deeper, and
Mhm.
I think it was such a great silver lining, just in
Mhm.
general, like throughout this pandemic, there's just been so much heaviness and hardship and confusion, frustration, and
Mhm.
grief. And I think what this whole experience was about for me, just at the end of it all, was just moving grief through, moving it and moving it and moving it. And
Mhm.
it did feel just like that. It felt like layers of this grieving that had taken place over the course of,
Mhm.
7 months or whatever. And also like a bit of an identity shift. That was one kind of theme that I had been working throughout this course, was like, like shifting into, we all have these like identities throughout our lives, right? That we
Mhm.
experience, and shifting from like being a younger dancer or a 30 something dancer to like a 40 something dancer. Like
Mhm.
that's a big jump and a big leap. And I think that, often with these like identity changes, we often like, especially when it comes to aging as a dancer, like you tend to like push it away and try to, stay in that same framework of what you knew and who you
Yeah.
were. And you don't honor, like you don't give yourself that respect of aging and moving into this new place that also shows beauty and also shows grace, and it's just a different chapter. So
Mhm.
I think that was a big piece, between that identity shift, the identity shifts happening in our, our culture, society, country, world, feeling that, and then also feeling into that space of, physical changes in my own body that I had experienced. Like who is this? Who is this body? What is happening with me?
Mhm.
How can I work with it versus work against it? And I think
Mhm.
that's that's been a part of my journey as a dancer, is to work with conflict, crisis, um, physical issues that come up, that often, challenge me to say, oh, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't, I guess I have to take a step back.
Mhm. That
So
is hard.
yeah, so I
Mhm.
think like moving towards that with grace versus moving towards situations like that and having like an answer, or
Yeah.
pretending like, okay, this is what I do now. Like just moving towards it with grace and with
Mhm.
flexibility and with a little bit of space,
Mhm.
um, instead of like forcing, um, whatever it may look like or whatever the journey
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. That was a big,
Yeah.
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 Hmm. Before this project was pitched, I found myself cycling up to the location that I had chosen for the piece, which was at Cornell Plantations,
Mm.
or sorry, Cornell
But
Botanic Gardens. And it's this beautiful like Japanese structure, indoor outdoor pavilion. And in the beginning of the pandemic, I found myself like just gravitating, like cycling in the cold to get up to that space and just spend time, not dance, like just
just
like
spend time there.
spend time in this space that's indoor outdoor. So this feeling of being somewhat enclosed, that was something that
Mhm.
I actually quite craved, is to be in a
Mm.
space where I could move, and that wasn't like, this tiny little uh, bathroom sized space that I have in
Yeah.
my own house where I'd move. I wanted something that, was that, I could actually move in. And so this space, this outdoor structure that is this Japanese pavilion, kept, speaking to me, and I kept like
Mm.
cycling, like taking all my stress out by cycling to this place and sitting there and just viewing like, the spring months like start to open up into these beautiful colors and all of that. And and then when Mandy had pitched this project, I was like, that's the
And
one.
that's
That's
the
the place.
place.
Part of that, I think, part of my reason for revisiting it over and over, was just because I also had been seeking this like solace and this like quiet and this place to actually meditate and to be
Mhm.
able to sort of draw back to my experiences in Japan when I felt
Mhm.
lonely and isolated and full of
Mhm.
fear because everything was different around me. And so I think like just needing to find a little peace and know and understand that I actually had been through situations where I felt isolated, alone, terrified, all of that
Mhm.
helped me to identify that, that it's not necessarily a place. It's like I can sort of look back and say, okay, I've been through that type of situation before where I felt full of fear.
Yeah.
And this place here in Ithaca actually sort of represents some of the same things. And yeah, and so I think that's one of the reasons why I chose that location
Mhm.
was because it felt peaceful. It felt like a place that would start to sort of heal my heart and my mind.
Yeah, like you could revisit your old self
Exactly. Yeah.
to get you through your current
Yeah.
self. That's
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's something to be said about not having all of the technical aspects to have to think about and make sure are in line. Like if you
Mhm.
were to choreograph or perform in a show, you're looking at lights, you're looking at uh, very specific staging, you're looking at
Yep.
all of these things, and I think that I think the absence of that sometimes, well, in my case, in this situation, not having to think about those things and to be able to move freely within the structure and just play off of the structure and play off of
Mhm.
the light and play off of the direction.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just it like provided like so much more creativity.
Yeah.
Very organic, was very
Yep.
natural, did not feel mechanical at all. And I agree. Like I also felt that high and also a sense of like what just happened, like
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
just happened, what came through, because it felt so big. it felt
Yeah.
it felt like yeah, it just felt bigger than in the past, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
The feelings were bigger, yeah,
Mhm.
with the struggles that I've had in my past, um and you know more specifically the struggles I had with having like a seizure disorder and not really having, being sort of afraid and held back from wanting to express how I feel, what happened to me, all of these different physical and emotional experiences that I would have during the time of during that time period of having an illness, were so big, but so full of shame and guilt. And so, because there was so much shame and guilt, I would completely retreat from vocalizing or verbalizing, and I would, you know, call into my body. And so my body became uh, the space where I could express, everything that I had felt, um,
Mhm.
some of the great things that I have felt, of course, too. But just, I think it has been, it continues to be, because it continues to be a gateway to my voice. Like,
Yeah.
and that voice changes. That voice changes through time, and that's what I love about it. I think that we have this opportunity to continue to like embrace these identities and
Yeah.
express these identities and express what it is meaningful to us and maybe what others don't see.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the strongest forms that we can connect to.
Yeah.
I get it. I have felt that way too, where it's like this, it's sort of like a love hate relationship,
Mhm.
and you kind of tug back and forth. And
Yeah.
yeah, but you know what? It's, I feel like in just staying with it, just staying connected, not with dance in general, but just staying connected to who you are. It just tells the story of
Hmm.
what you need, And I think like I do. I think dance is it never leaves. It's always with you. So
Oh yeah.
it just kind of manifests in different ways as you go on. And it's, yeah, you have your relationships, you have your hardships with it, but
Yeah.
but it's yeah, it's always with you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.